Tell me when we're on. We're on. Let me make sure everybody in the chat can hear us. We're good. Welcome back. This is our Outreach Wednesdays. Great class tonight. Great subject. You ain't no man. You say it like that, right? You ain't no man. Yeah. So starting tonight with my wife, Dove. You got something to say, Dove, to the people out there?
No, I just want to say welcome to the remnant. Enjoy yourself and bring your whole mind.
That's right. Okay, babe. Thank you. Um, this is a really, really important subject. What I have realized is that there is a limited amount of information, in particular in communities of color. Well, Black, Latino communities, about manhood, right? The American ideal of becoming a man is age. When you become 18 years old, you're considered a man. Extremely problematic. Extremely problematic. And so, what I want to do is take you on a little journey so I can break down to you about manhood, and not just manhood, but what the Most High's idea of what a man is supposed to be. All right? What the Most High idea of what a man is supposed to be. When I was growing up, it was a big thing within my family, in particular my father, manhood. My father elevated the idea of manhood more than anything in my life. Manhood was the theme. As a little boy growing up, manhood was the theme. And like I said, it was elevated. If ever I would do something that was beneath what he considered a man, he would tell me. He would say, son, that ain't no manhood stuff. That ain't being no man. And he would tell me that. And hearing that from my father, knowing how much emphasis he put on being a man, it was something that was devastating. It was like death to me to hear my father tell me that I wouldn't be no man based upon an action that I was taking, right? And it made me very conscious all my life about what I considered from my father to be a man. It was an American Pimp that some of you know me from, older people, some of the younger people don't, but in the documentary film from the Hughes brothers made their first movie, Menace to Society, and then they went on to make Dead Presidents, and then they went on to make The Book of Eli with Denzel Washington, and From Hell with Johnny Depp, and successful filmmakers. And they decided one time that they wanted to do this documentary on quote unquote pimping, right? And so ultimately, my father and I got introduced to them. And through the course of this introduction, when they met me, they ultimately wanted to hire me to help them in this process and this discovery of what this lifestyle was all about. And during the filming of American Pimp, uh, I went to jail. I caught a case in Las Vegas, and the Hughes brothers got clearance, and people to this day don't know how in the world the Hughes brothers was able to come into jail, because that's really unallowed to film in jail, right? So they really got clearance to come film a part in jail, right? And there was something that I said during my part in jail. I said, if they think that them bringing me to jail is about to strip me from being the man that I am, then they're badly mistaken. I'm going to stay that, right? And ultimately, when I got out, I became extremely recognizable because the documentary first went to the big screen in about 10 cities around the country, major cities, LA, New York, and others, Washington. And the feedback that I got from most people was, man, what you said about being a man, it moved me, right? It moved me. I even talked to Snoop on the phone, bless Snoop's heart. And Snoop said, man, Dre, we needed to see that kind of strength, is what he said, that kind of strength, that type of strength, right? And it was all based upon manhood. One time I had met Jay-Z at a BET party years ago that he and Beyonce was giving, and he said to me, man, you was talking crazy in that documentary, man. Man, you was talking. I met a lot of people that were impacted by my part in American Pimp. But the foundation of why I was willing to take a stand, even though I was facing life, why I was able to proclaim that if you think me being in this condition is about to shift anything about my manhood, that's because my dad had made it such a big theme in my life. He had made it bigger than anything. And I was feeling like I could lose everything. I could lose everything. And I had lost just about everything. As somebody may think, I had mansions and money and cars and all jewelry, all that kind of stuff that one would think is everything. Women. But I didn't feel like that was everything. I felt that what manhood represented to me, even if I was in the condition that I was in, that the man in me was more important than what I had lost and more important than the condition itself. And that if you took everything from me, there's one thing that I couldn't live without, and that was being a man. I'm not going to give you that. So my same disposition that I had on them streets is going to be the same disposition that I have right now facing life. Because I was a man on the streets. In American Pimp, I said, before you a doctor, lawyer, pimp, whatever, you got to be a man first, right? And you think you dealing with, quote unquote, a pimp. I understand that. But you're dealing with a man. And I'm not going to never give you that. All right? So let's go on this journey as we break these things down. We're going to go back into this history book of ours, who Christians call the Bible. We don't teach religion, we have culture. It's culture to us, a book of our ancestors. I don't care who don't believe it. That's for you who can see it, understand it, and believe it. D, come on, man. Bring your whole mind. You know how we say in the remnant, bring your whole mind. This is going to be extremely informative, and you'll be able to build a foundation on this for the rest of your life. Right? Okay, what we going to?
We got Acts 8:32 amplified.
Acts 8:32.
Now this was the passage of scripture which he was reading.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I don't think that's it.
oh, sorry, skip me back.
Yeah.
My apologies. We're starting at Genesis 1:26.
We're going to start right in the beginning. Right in the beginning. Let's go.
Then God said, let us, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, make man in our image.
Okay.
According to our likeness.
All right.
Not physical, but a spiritual personality and moral likeness.
Okay, so in the beginning, it's important, stay here, D. It's important to understand the idea of what the Most High God was wanting in a man. What was his reasoning after he had created man? Because the scriptures say, our history book says, he created mankind for his pleasure. Somebody might ask. I had somebody in the class ask me, Mo, man, well, what was it all about? Why did he even create man? Well, he created man for his pleasure. If you look at the world and you look at the thousands of years that man has been in the world, I would say to you that what has become of man is not pleasurable to the Most High. What has become of man is not pleasurable, right? That wasn't his idea, what has become of man. But initially, he said, I've created man in our likeness and in our image. What did he say after that?
According to our likeness, not physical, but a spiritual personality and moral likeness.
Okay. This was the plan. This is important. This was his original plan. We're going to go back to 8, back to 0, right? I wanted to create them to be like me. This was the original plan, like me. That's deep. Because he had a vision of a man or mankind, unlike the vision that we have of man today. He had a vision of man, right? There's an elevation in the statement. Let's look between the lines. There's an elevation in the statement about how high he viewed us. How high he viewed us. I want to make them in our likeness and in our image. That's pretty high. I don't know nothing that's higher. I don't know anything that's higher than to be created with the purpose of being created in his likeness and in his image. I said you could look upon the world today and you could see mankind don't have his likeness. Mankind don't have his image. Okay, we're going next, D. Watch. Listen, bring your whole mind. We're going to unpack it. Let's go.
He said, and let them have complete authority.
Okay, let's go to the next one.
Malachi 3:6.
All right.
Amplified. For I, the Lord, I am the Lord. I do not change.
I want you to understand that. Say that again.
For I am the Lord. I do not change.
He wanted us to be in his likeness and his image. So he says, let me pop out on you. Let me give you some of my characteristics. Say it again, D.
I do not change.
Hey, man. How many times have you met a man and, you women out there met a guy and he put on his best fronts? Oh, boy, he talk good talk. Boy, I'm talking about he act like he Prince Charming, And 3 months down the line, you don't even know this cat that's by you. It's like, who is this? He metamorphosized. No, he didn't. He was always that person. He just put on the front. Is that individual characteristic like the Most High? Is that individual that presents himself as something and then shifts and changes into something else? Is that like the Most High who's what? Who don't what?
He don't change.
Who doesn't change? Okay, we're going to elevate the conversation about manhood right now because most of you guys think manhood has to do with how much money you got, what kind of car you got, how successful you are. But that ain't what the Most High said. He said, I made man in my likeness and in my image. Now he's going to break down to you who he is, what his disposition is. And he said, I am God and I change not. Did you think he needed to tell himself that? Or why was he saying it then? He's trying to let you know who you're supposed to be. Read the next one, D. Bring your whole mind.
Hebrews 13:8.
All right.
Yahushua is eternally changeless.
Now he's talking about who they call Jesus.
Always.
Hold on. Now he's going to tell you about the Son. who the Christians call Jesus, and we know his original Hebrew name is Yahweh Shai. Because as we've done a class, we've enlightened Christians to tell them there may be a billion of you that exist around the world, but which you have founded your religion on, who is Jesus, was not who you are. He was not a Christian. He probably never even heard of the word Christian. They said he's coming back. I always say, well, he's not going to come back and know anything about you because he was an Israelite. Right? So now the Most High is going to pop out again. Right? Since we are demonstrating characteristics. And so he's going to give you, he told you his characteristic. He says, I am God and I change not. That's Yahweh. That's the Father's Hebrew name, Yahweh. Now he's talking about the Son, Yahweh Shai. Yahweh, the Father, says, I don't change. And now he's talking about the Son, who they call Jesus. What did he say again?
Yahweh Shai is eternally changeless always.
Eternally changeless. Go ahead.
The same yesterday.
The same yesterday.
And today.
And today.
And forever.
And forever. What did he say?
And forever.
What else after that?
That was it.
He changes not, in essence. Okay? So I need to give you a foundation as we building on what this man is supposed to be. To try to give you a hint of why I said, if they think that them bringing me to jail, I know that I'm facing life. I understand that you guys want to give me life, but I want you to know there's something that I value that is my life, and it's my manhood. It is my life. You're trying to give me life, but my manhood is my life. And I'm going to let you know nothing's going to change about that, whatever the circumstance is, right? Because he says, Andre, I made you in my image and my likeness. I'm not about to change. Okay, next. Listen, bring your whole mind. We're going to break it down.
Genesis 17:1.
Oh, man, it's going to get good.
Amplified.
Mm-hmm.
Abraham and the covenant of circumcision.
Whew.
When Abraham was 99 years old.
Listen, when Abraham, and I'm glad, see, we went from the Most High God, then we went to the Son, Yahweh Shai, who they call Jesus. Now we're going to the father of faith, Abraham, which all these three religions or something is built upon: Christians and Muslims and those Jews, or quote unquote Jewish people, right? It all comes from Abraham. So it's important that now he goes back to Abraham. Let's listen. Let's listen. See what's going on here, though.
When Abraham was 99 years old.
Yeah.
The Lord appeared to him and said.
What? He appeared to him and said.
He appeared to him and said.
What did he say?
I am.
God
Almighty.
Okay. He could have said, I'm the God that don't change. A lot of times when God would reveal himself to man throughout the years, he would present himself with a name. In the situation with Abraham, a lot of you guys know the story because it's been commercialized about him sacrificing his son, and there was a ram in the bush. And so at that moment, Abraham knew Yahweh as Jehovah Jireh, which means the God that shall provide. He introduced himself. He had an experience with him as now the God that shall provide, Jehovah Jireh. Okay, so he introduced himself, he appeared, and then he's going to tell him something. What did he say?
Told him to walk habitually before me.
Walk habitually before me.
With integrity.
With integrity.
Knowing that you are always in my presence.
Go ahead.
And be blameless. And complete.
What?
In obedience to me.
Remnants, catch this. Go say that again.
Walk habitually before me.
We ain't talking religion around here. This is coaching.
With integrity.
Walk habitually before me with integrity.
Knowing that you are always in my presence.
Knowing you in my presence, because if you walk habitually before me with integrity, I'm going to be there. Go ahead, read.
And be blameless and complete in obedience to me.
Be blameless and complete. But how can you be blameless and complete? Here's a hint there. He said, be blameless and complete.
In obedience to me.
You got to have obedience and submission. But I want you to understand the expectation of what he has in the father of faith. He told him to walk before me and be perfect. Now, if you look at mankind today, you would think that's impossible. You would think perfect is impossible. But he commanded Abraham to walk before me and be perfect. Right? Okay, we're breaking down characteristics of this man that the Most High has elevated so high that he says, I'm going to make you in my likeness and I'm going to make you in my image. It ain't just the average fella around that he's talking about. I want to make a distinction so that you can understand a distinction. So that when somebody opens their mouth and say, I'm a man, you dang near will choke. You might tell them, I don't know what you are, but you sure ain't no man. That's not what you are, right? Okay, read that part over again. We're about to break it down. Go ahead.
The whole thing?
Yeah, read that part.
When Abraham was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to him and said, I am God Almighty.
Yeah.
Walk habitually before me with integrity, knowing that you are always in my presence.
Another translation said, walk before me and be perfect. Go ahead.
And be blameless and complete in obedience to me.
So now he's giving you indications of how to become or stay being this man that he has made in his likeness and his image. He's given us a lesson here. Here's a tutelage right here. And manhood has to do with integrity. They don't teach you that in school. In America, they just say when you're 18, you're just a man. But it has to do with integrity. And it has to do with obedience. We're talking about the God man, the man that God had initiated in the earth, the reason why he made man for his own pleasure. We're talking about the man that pleases even the Most High God. Read the next part. The next
Matthew 23, 1 through 7. Amplified.
Bring your whole mind.
Pharisees exposed.
Listen.
Then Yahushua spoke to the crowds and said to his disciples, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees have seated themselves in Moses' chair.
The religious people. Oh, I'm a bishop. I'm a prophet. I'm an evangelist. They sit themselves where?
In Moses' chair.
Oh, they just popping it, right? They're shining around here, man. They got the collars on. Oh, go ahead, read. Watch what happens.
Of authority as teachers of the law.
Oh, they sit themselves as authority. They give themselves titles, right? And these titles, we are teachers of the law. Let's go.
So practice and observe everything they tell you.
Stop right there. He said, listen, just because they act pious, but they be teaching the law. Sometimes you can go to a church and you can get a real good preacher. There's a lot of good preachers out there, right? They bring the word. That's what he's saying. He said, you can listen to that word, even though it's coming from a flawed vessel. That word is good, though. That's what he's saying here, right? But I've said a million times, there's a lot of guys out there that's good at being a preacher and bad at being a man. Read.
So practice and observe everything they tell you.
Watch what he said.
But do not do as they do.
Don't be out of bounds like them, though.
For they preach things, but do not practice them.
You see what I'm saying? Listen, they preach a good sermon, but they'll be over there and mess with folks' wives, too. Don't practice the stuff that they practicing, because God said that ain't no man. That ain't no man. Go ahead, read. Watch.
The scribes and the Pharisees tie up heavy loads that are hard to bear and place them on men's shoulders.
They preach all this good stuff and put the pressure on you, try to make you accountable, telling you were you out of bounds, and they out of bounds all along. Go ahead, read.
But they themselves will not lift a finger to make them lighter.
Man, come on now. Read.
They do all their deeds to be seen by men.
Yeah. One time my dad told me, son, don't never let the money be bigger than you. He said, I'm going to give you a certain scenario. I said, I'm listening, Dad. He said, it's like a dude that's at the club. He come into the club, he valets his Benz. Valet the Benz. You know, it's up front, right? Go into the club. You know, he trying to have him on by the end of the night, though. Right? So he find one. Look what he tell her. Look, mama, here, take my keys, you know, and go wait for me in the Benz. Go wait for me in it's the red Benz out there in valet, you know. Go waiting for the Benz. He said, don't never let the money nor the Benz be bigger than you, son. Don't never let the money nor the Benz be bigger than you. He said, because it's a characteristic of a lot of guys out there that as soon as they start having money, they start believing that there's somebody. He said, you got to be somebody before you got some money, son. You got to be somebody before you got some money, so that the money ain't the thing that make you somebody. You got to be careful, because you got to be a man, Andre. Who you are as a man can never be determined by the things you have. You remember the story I told you guys, and let me tell them. I was in federal prison, and they knew what I was in there for. They said, oh, you don't like working with your hands, huh? I'm in Tucson, we're burning up hot. And they gonna put me on landscaping. Ain't no grass, but they do got rocks around the trees. My job was to rake the rocks, keep them from the dirt from around the trees. That was my job, right? So I went up there, while raking them rocks like I am a professional. And certain dudes that knew me, knew what I was in there for, they would come and laugh. And one dude said, oh, Trey, man, you're working hard for the man. I didn't say nothing. I just kept. But one day, he said it. And I said, come here, let me holler at you, man. I said, look, man, I know that when you see me raking these rocks with excellence, I know you think I'm doing this for these people. But I just want you to know that them people ain't got nothing to do with why I'm raking these rocks with excellence. I said, you see, on the streets and everything that I've done in my life, I've always given excellence to everything, right? I said, now, just because I'm in this condition, if they could stop me from giving excellence to what I give in life, then yes, they would have beaten me, right? So this excellence has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with the man that I am.
Let's go.
And I kept breaking them rocks with excellence. God says I'm God, not changed. Not! Yahweh Shai said, I'm the same yesterday, today, and forever. He told Abraham to walk before me and be perfect. I made you in my image and in my likeness. That means you could do it. You got the will to do it. Don't let them people break you. Don't let them people make you petty. Where you think I came up with the line that I've given you guys? Sometime the Most High will allow you to be in a situation just to see. It'll make you petty. We're talking about manhood today. Sometimes God will allow you to be in a situation just to see if it'll make you petty, brother. Because if it makes you petty, you're not a man. If you're only a man based upon what you have, you're not a man. If you're only a man when you think success has happened to you in your life, you're not a man. Sometimes I used to talk about how, the ball players or rappers or entertainers, right? And how they've learned to utilize the advantage of their positioning. And people utilize what they utilize. People use their knowledge. People use their looks. People use their celebrity. People utilize whatever advantage they have, right? So the celebrity, he uses his celebrity to give him an advantage in life. But I would always say, you're only who you are because you can throw the football. You're only who you are because you can dunk the basketball. But who were you before then? Because that's the real person. You're cushioned into the power that you're presenting to the world. It is only through your cushion. I would always say, I don't want to deal, nor do I want people around me that's had a perfect life. I don't want that around me. I don't trust people who have had a perfect life. Because if a condition happens, I just don't know what they're going to do. Give me a man that's been knocked off the pathway, that's had to face and conquer his demons. Give me that man. I want to know what he's built out of. Have you faced it? I don't want nobody that's cute around here. What I mean by that? They just popping it because they have advantage. That's cute to me. It's just all these people online, they be popping all this beautiful stuff, and anybody can get rich online. And now they're in a position where they have some wealth. And so now they're selling you the idea that they're somebody. I was somebody facing life. I remember one time I was talking to this pastor. And I was like, Pastor, he had seen the movie, was asking me about American Pimp. I said, Pastor, do you know that was real? That was a documentary. What you saw, that's who I am. I said, so I've already faced what most men have been crushed by. I've already faced it and overcame it. I said, so there's nothing that I can face in the free world that's equivalent to the pressure of going to trial for life. There's nothing that you're going to face more than your life being on the line. I said, so if I stood then, I said, know what you're dealing with around here, Pastor. If I stood in the worst case scenario, this out here is nothing to me. Understand what you're dealing with, Pastor.
I don't even know if we can process that.
Understand what you're dealing with around here. I'm a man who don't do no changing. When I was faced with all conditions, when I had a whole bunch of money and when I didn't have nothing, I was intentional on being consistent to who I said I was. I was intentional because I considered that a man. He didn't give any fluff to Abraham. He told Abraham to walk before me and be perfect with integrity. This is the expectation I have of you. He didn't say, well, if the condition changes for you, Abraham, I'm going to give you a little break. You see, think about a young black man in particular out there that never had what I'm explaining today. And he grows up in a world thinking when he's 18, he's a man. And he'll pump his chest real tough. I'm a man, mama, now. Mama try to whoop him. I'm a man, mama, now. Come on, mama. Remember my brother, when he was older and my mom was trying to whoop him for something. He was holding on to the belt. Come on, mama. Mama. I'm a man now. And can you see why we're lost? Because now the young black man is influenced by what he sees on the internet or TV. And he's identifying manhood with money. That's why in our communities, treason is the highest it's ever been. In my dad's time, the men were built understanding what manhood was. And so the same things, they say the feds and the DEA have spent $500 million, go look it up, funding confidential informants all over the country. $500 million. Boy, y'all ain't got a chance in these streets. You ain't got a chance. In my dad's time, at least you had a chance. I was looking at a mafia dude, older man. He had just got out, and he just did 28 years or something. It's like last week, and he just got out. Yeah, I ain't building them kind of cats no more. Tell on 3, go free. That's what you're dealing with. That's why you ain't got a chance on these streets. Because ain't nobody taught the value of manhood. Ain't nobody taught that manhood was for the individual. It was for me. It wasn't for them. So ain't nobody got a reason to stand up in this manhood because they don't even know what manhood is. It's not beautiful to them. It was beautiful to me. Growing up, it was beautiful. Manhood was beautiful, and it still is, and I still stand in it. And I've overcome every enemy. Every one of them up underneath this integrity that he told Abraham that I need you to walk before me with this integrity. Because if you walk before me with this integrity, it's easy for you to walk before men with that same integrity. But if integrity haven't been something that's beautiful to you, you're going to tell on 3 and go free. It's not important enough for you to have integrity, to have character. Those things are not beautiful. The only things that are beautiful to you is, I just got to get this Benz. I remember a story. I was dealing with my partner, Sweeps. I don't know where Sweeps is. I love you, Sweeps. And I just met him, and he heard all about me. And I had just got out not long, right? And he had some friends. Man, you're going to have to be watch out for Dre, man. And I said, Sweeps. I said, let me tell you something, man. I said, let me tell you something, Sweeps. I said, the most dangerous person on them streets. I said, now, you know, I'm a master of Godfather in this game. But I'm going to give you some game, Sweeps. The most dangerous person on them streets is a dude that's hustling who haven't made it to the top yet. That's a dangerous person. He hasn't got the feel of success. He hasn't got the feel of it. And he's working his way up and he get popped. He get popped. Yeah, he liable to tell on you. He liable to tell on you. I said, but once you have achieved success the first time, you can duplicate it over and over and over again. You don't have the same this desperation, so to speak. You have a poise. You have a disposition of poise because you know what it took for you to achieve the success. But when you haven't and you're doing it for the first time and you get popped, that person's dangerous. Listen to me out there. That's a dangerous person because he has a reason to want to say something against you. He has a reason that's more important to stay free. That's more important to him than anything. You ain't dealing with men today. You're just dealing with a bunch of males. And I'm going to tell you guys, in this remnant, we build men around here. Men. So when we give conferences around this country and people come from all over to these conferences because they're drawn to a place that they know is full of integrity. Ain't nobody here underhanded. Ain't nobody here looking at you to do you something wrong, even though we come from the streets, drug dealing, gang banging, pimping, or whatever. And maybe you didn't do any of that. But we've come from so many different places. And we found a culture that was lost to us. And there's men here. There's support here. There's love here, real love. We're not scared of the word love. Matter of fact, it's the most powerful word in the world.
That's right.
You just don't know what love is. You know what bondage is. You know what usury is. And that's what you do in your communities. You look at somebody as an opportunity for your advancement. That's what's out there. We don't want that. We don't even claim to be African American. Let the system and let America name you. They can't name us. We know who we are. They can have all that. We don't want none of that. There's men here. That's what God does first. He comes and deals with the men. And there's a love for manhood over here. Now, let me tell you the difference. With that love of what God expects out of us comes a power, though, that I want to explain to you. Comes a power. That same power, you see that power of this country having minimized you, having conquered you, having reduced you, having neutralized you, and having neutralized every black movement that is rose from the Nation of Islam to the Black Panthers to whatever has tried to arise, and this system has neutralized it. Because most people are operating from the lessons that this country has taught you. So you operate in manhood the way they taught you manhood is, right? And it lacks power. The beauty about what God considers manhood is that it offers power. The power of God to protect something that looks, operates like himself. That power. That's why they couldn't beat me. That's why I'm not doing life in prison. That's why they can't beat me now. That's why they can't beat no remnant. We're not releasing no remnant to the enemy. Those days are over with. And it will not be by our hands. You see, all those movements arose like it was supposed to be by their hands. We can sit back with the power of our words. With the power of our words, like Minds and American Pimp. If they think that them bringing me to jail was going to strip me from being the man that I am, then they're badly mistaken, because I know the man that I was attached to covering, was attached to power, was attached to authority, was attached to something greater than their system. I knew it, which is why I was saying, if they think that whatever condition was going to shift and change me from God's idea of I am God and I change not, from Yahushua popping out and saying, I am the same yesterday, today, and forever. And our history book says, let this mind be in you. Let this consciousness, the way you move, let it be in you like it is in Yahushua. Let this mind be in you that was also in him. The way you move, the way you think about yourself, the way you understand what manhood is. There's a power and an authority that comes along with it. You ain't no man. You's a little boy. You's a good boy for the system because they taught you everything you know. And you operate just like them because they operate with the mindset, by any means conquer. No matter how low we got to get, we can get lower than the snake's belly, but at the end of the day, we would have conquered. We could kill, maim, rape, whatever, but at the end of the day, we will have conquered. That's how they think. That's what you're dealing with. And if you think you could be taught by them, and somehow you getting it secondhand is going to offset what they're doing originally, that's why you haven't seen any successful movements against this system. When I came here and won police accountability, I taught them what leadership was. I taught them what manhood was. Because I knew what came along with me being with the Most High said that a man is. And you know what? I knew they'd never seen a man before. Whew. I knew they'd never seen a man before. I knew I would make them uncomfortable because they're looking back at me and they're saying, isn't this guy that was that pimp in that movie, American Pimp, and all this kind of stuff? And I was talking to the remnant one time. I was like, when I used to be in these meetings, they kept trying to see the pimp. They kept trying to see this pimp. They couldn't see nothing but the man. One time I did a class and I was like, they promote this clownish activity or this clown look or something like that because it's comical to them. Right? And I kept saying they kept asking for the clown and I kept bringing them the man. They kept asking for the clown and I kept bringing them the man. Some of you think you're a man because you got a nice car. It's that easy? Do you think it's that easy? Did you think manhood was that easy? At least back in like 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago, there had to be something that you had to overcome. They make you go out there and try to kill the lion or something. Yeah, that rite of passage. You could kill a lion or do something. But in America, they done told you that you just need to turn 18 years old. You ain't no man. You ain't overcame nothing. You ain't been tested. There's a lot of preachers up there that talk a big talk. And I know they couldn't walk 1,000 miles in my moccasins. You ain't been tested. You might speak pretty. And I always say to the remnant, everybody's so deep until the test comes. Everybody's so deep. This is a cold-blooded age because they got thousands of people online that presenting themselves to be something so big, and they've got thousands and maybe millions of people doomed forever because no one is being developed in their manhood. That's why I always used to say when I was doing police accountability and I was trying to talk to some of these Black organizations that got these slave mentalities, and I would tell them, I would never send a people to war fractured by self-hate. You think you ready to go to war with these people? The kind of war you talking about? We ain't talking about that kind of war. The war we talking about is an interior war. It's the inside out with us. You think we worried about the exterior? The Most High will take care of the exterior. We worrying about this interior man. Because so much garbage has been learned from this system of how to operate with deceit and underhandedness and hate and murder. You got to get that up out of you because you got to get back to the original man with integrity, the man that refuses to change because he has integrity and honor. And he is like his God, and he wants to walk perfectly before his God, before anything else. You got to get back to that before you talk about going to war with this enemy. You ain't ready to, this laughable. You are laughable. It's the righteousness that the Most High honors. You can look over my life and you can continue to see the consistency. And what do you see? I've conquered every enemy, every single one of them. And you could look and see one thing about Dre, he never changed. When he was on dialysis, he lost his kidneys twice, got 2 kidney transplants. And the man is up in the seat talking about he cool. I always tell people, while I was on dialysis, I did my greatest work. It is then that I passed police accountability and lead this whole nation in police accountability. And we didn't just change the law, it's effective because we made history in this state. First, by changing the law. Second, by getting the first officer in the history of this state convicted, charged and convicted for murder. Something that could have never happened unless we had the law changed. So not only are we just talking, we got the receipts around here. So when brothers and sisters come from all over this country, because they got receipts, we're just not talking to be talking, right? We're not like those Pharisees and those scribes that's trying to sit in the seat of Moses with collars around their neck, but ain't never did nothing significant for the community. You just a slave bowed down with the lessons that the indoctrination in this American culture has taught you. That's all you've ever produced. Death! You don't know what life is because you dead yourself. Didn't I tell you that manhood is my life? I said, they try to give me life, but manhood is my life. Let's create man in our own image and in our own likeness. That's a high calling. That's a high calling. I want to be pleasing to the Most High. Because you know what happens when you're pleasing to the Most High? What happens, remnant?
Cover. Conquer everything.
When a man's ways please the Most High, what?
He'll make his enemies be at peace with him.
He'll even make his enemies be at peace with him. How in the world does the FOP, the Fraternal Order of Police, the largest police union in the country, come and support my work? They're supposed to be right-wing leaning. But when a man's ways please the Most High, he will, not me, he will even make his enemies be at peace with him. How is it that the mayor hired me $150,000 as the street czar of the city? They all knew I was a pimp. They all knew I had a record, but it was that work that overwhelmed them. They couldn't deny the work.
For the man.
That's right. But you ain't no man. You don't even desire being no man. You just want riches. That ain't gonna make you no man. Is Chris Brown rich?
Oh, yeah.
They put that man in prison, in jail over there in Europe, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even let him out just until recently. He had to post $6 million bond to get out. Is P. Diddy rich? He's supposed to be a billionaire, right? Where he at?
In their hands.
Young Thug, he rich, ain't he? Your riches ain't gonna beat this system. They'll let you have a couple dollars, but they'll never teach you how to conquer them. I'm teaching you how to conquer them with receipts. I'm teaching you how to conquer them. I tell them publicly, I'm teaching you how to conquer them. But remember, it's the inside game. Why? Because we got to get back aligned to that high calling. I will make man in my image and in our likeness. And my image and our likeness. That's what the power is. The power is his image and his likeness. Why you ain't got no power? You don't look like him. The scripture says, our history book says that the eyes of the Most High run to and fro. This don't sound like religion, do it? This don't sound like Christianity, because it's not. This is culture. That the eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth on behalf of them whose heart is perfect towards him. But you know what the enemy did? He made you detest anything that has to do with God, because the way Christians have lived God in front of you. But they haven't lived God in front of you. They just like those Pharisees and scribes.
Mm-hmm.
that's trying to sit in the position of Moses. But what did the Most High say? But don't you act, don't do what they're doing. Don't act like them, because they're not in my likeness and they're not in my image.
They do all their deeds to be seen by men, not him.
They do all their deeds to be seen by men. Right? I'm giving you the key. Dre, how did you do it? I'm telling you how I did it. I'm telling you how I did it. How'd you do it, Dre? People be wondering out there, how did you do it? I'm telling you how I did it. But you don't value manhood enough. They got you chasing the bag that they own. You know they print the money, right? If they could just keep you controlled, they'll be controlling you for another 1,000,000 years. You better thank God the remnant is here. You better thank God you don't need to understand what a man is in the eyes of what white culture to a man is. You need to thank God. And one thing he didn't do, let me go the easy route. He says, I'm going to let you go through the gutter. Because there's a lot of your people in the gutter that ain't going to hear nobody that didn't come there. I'm going to let you come from them gutters. And I'm going to raise. I'm going to teach you. When you go back to them, they'll know where you come from. They'll know that you came from them gutters. And they'll know where you are now. So they'll have something to believe. This is all purpose. Thank God the remnant is here. Because we're only here for the remnant. We're not on the corners trying to twist your arm. We encourage you, if you don't want to be no man, just go on down the street. There's a whole bunch of churches out there that accommodate you. Go on down there, brother. We bless you. Okay, good. Okay, look. Go on down there. This ain't what you want. You don't want accountability. You don't want manhood. You don't want structure. Because you don't want to be in the likeness and the image of God. It don't look good to you. But as I said, and I'm about to end, if they think that them bringing me to jail, if they think the threat of a life sentence, if they think that kidney failure twice, if they think that having to go live in a shelter after being a multimillionaire, if they think any of those things is going to change me from being like him in his image, then they badly mistaken. All right, remnant. That's it. Before you out there, get in class. We got over 1,000 classes on every different type of subject, but you got to get in class, right? We do this on purpose. We do a free outreach. We're dedicated to it. It's going to be consistent. But the classes we have on Mondays and Fridays at 7 o'clock are 1,000 classes from all these platforms on every subject. We talk about everything. Nothing is taboo. This is culture. This is not religion. We're going to talk about women. We're going to talk about the system. We'll talk about every issue because that's what culture is about. Get in class. And let me just say this to you. When you get in class, if you use your iPhone, they're going to charge you a fee, an extra fee. It'd be like $65 instead of the $50 or the $49 or whatever. So do it on your computer or your Android, right? If you do, like I said, if you get the class through your iPhone, Apple charges an extra fee. Boy, they got the game, don't they? Boy, it's something else, right? Come be a part. We're here. We're here. But I can guarantee you, you get into the classes and you start to learn about who you are, about your culture, right? And you can reject what they've taught you for the 400 years that you've been here. I know there are the Hotep saying that Black people are already here. I'm talking about the tribe of Judah, the ones that the Bible talks about, the one that Deuteronomy talks about. I'm talking about Judah, right? And if you want to know what that means, you got to go into class and understand your culture. All praise to the Most High. Anybody else want to say anything? Anybody got anything to say before we leave here? You want to say anything, Doug? No.
It's a tough follow-up right there.
Huh?
So that's a tough follow-up right
There
there.
got to be a follow-up. You want to say something, daughter? No? Okay. Nobody. Yeah. Come on. Put that on him. All praise.
Okay. So Dre was speaking on, this topic, just thinking about how I grew up. My father, he went to jail when I was 1 years old, and he was in my life, before he got incarcerated, and he only got out of jail 7 years ago. I'm 27, so he got out. I was 20, and I grew up with my mother and my sister, so subconsciously I took on the characteristics of my mother because that's who I was around, and it wasn't no men around me when I grew up. It was males, and my cousins, my uncles, and stuff like that, but they weren't operating in manhood. So I took on some characteristics from my mother, operating in anxiety and if I feel disrespected, the need to feel like I need to snap back on someone. And I used to think that, that was, somebody trying to get one up on me and snapping. I need to snap back. If I feel disrespected, I need to go off too and operate in that same spirit that someone else is operating in, letting teacher. So as I got older and I start to seek knowledge, and especially when I came into this information, I realized that I was operating like a female would. You know what I'm saying? And once I got around these men, the original men, those emotions and how I was operating was exposed quickly. You know what I'm saying? And quickly got on top of those things because I realized that those characteristics were things that I was bringing into my life as I got older and bringing it to, my relationship and everything. And I see how out of balance I was and how I shouldn't have been operating that way. And it's some guys that grew up with the mother and had taught them some things, but it's nothing like growing up with a man and teaching you things about manhood and checking those areas that are out of bounds. Is right there. Listen, you operating like a woman right there. You operating your emotions. I didn't grow up with that, but as like I said, I got into information. All those things were exposed, and so I just wanted to speak on how, even the guys that I grew up around, I know that a lot of us, we grew up just with our mothers because, our fathers weren't there. So I know that we shared some of the same characteristics, and it's something to think about, when you feel you need to snap on someone or you feel that you need to react to something that's going on, because in information we learn to respond instead of reacting. And over time, as you grow within the information, you just get on top of those spirits that were placed upon you, and why you develop those certain characteristics as you grew up, and you just stay on top of those things because that's not how a man operates, and that's not how you show up before the Most High.
That's great.
You know what I'm saying? And getting into this information, it's about pleasing the Most High. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have anything to do with the woman that you're dealing with. It doesn't have anything to do with the circumstance that you're dealing with in your life. It's about pleasing the Most High and walking smoothly before Him. That's it.
Yeah, somebody said it was blurry. I don't know at what point did it get blurry. It straightened out. I don't know, but we'll fix it. What?
No, it was just in and out a couple times.
Oh, yeah. Somebody said it was blurry. I don't know. Technical things. We'll make sure we have it handled. But we're gonna go for now. We thank you. Come back next week. All praises to the Most High God. We love you. Peace.
Love you.
You might can get an extra.